There are things that are more than just food. They are memories, emotions, and connections to the people we love. For me, baking a batch of chocolate chip cookies every year isn't just about making a sweet treat. It's a sacred ritual, a way to honor my father, who passed away in 2017. I pour my time and heart into making them, carefully storing them as if they were a small treasure of my own. But then, during a visit from my sister and her two little kids, the box of cookies disappeared. When I discovered the truth, I didn't just feel a sense of loss. I felt deeply hurt. It made me wonder, am I overreacting, or is the lack of respect from family a much bigger issue? That batch of chocolate chip cookies was not just an ordinary treat. It was a journey through memory, a piece of the past I wanted to preserve. This special recipe was never truly mine. It was a legacy passed down to me by my father. He was not only the most loving father, but also my very first teacher in the tiny kitchen of our home. As a child, I found immense joy in cooking, and my father was the one who taught me the fundamentals: how to measure ingredients, how to mix the dough, and how to bake the perfect cookies. Among all the dishes we made together, this particular batch of chocolate chip cookies was the most special. It was the first time I experienced the pure happiness of creating something with my own hands, and my father was there by my side, guiding me through each step. Those cookies became a part of my childhood, a symbol of the bond between us. When my father passed away in 2017, the kitchen suddenly felt empty. The afternoons of experimenting with new recipes together were gone. The laughter that echoed whenever I made a mistake and he patiently corrected me had become a distant memory. Everything had turned into fragments of the past. But instead of letting time erase everything, I decided to hold on to a small part of those cherished moments by maintaining our tradition, baking a batch of chocolate chip cookies once a year. I make only one batch, carefully following the exact recipe my father taught me. I do not eat them hurriedly, nor do I share them with anyone. Each year, those cookies serve one purpose: to remember him. I take them to his grave, sit down, and slowly savor each bite, as if sharing a warm moment with him once again, just like in the old days. It is not merely a habit, but a way for me to connect with my father, even though he is no longer here. For me, that box of cookies is more than just food. It is a symbol of love, of nostalgia, of a connection that will never fade. I do not bake them for the sake of a hobby or to indulge in the sweetness of chocolate. I bake them to remember the man who once held my hand in our little kitchen, to hold on to the warmth that lingers from a part of my life I refuse to forget. That box of cookies is a piece of me, a fragment of my childhood, an irreplaceable collection of memories. And then, in a single afternoon, all of it was taken away in an instant. Last weekend, my sister and her children came to visit my home. While I was happy to have my sister over, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anxiety because of the children's curiosity. They are extremely energetic and always looking for ways to explore everything around them. I knew that my nieces and nephews were naturally curious about everything in the house, but I never expected them to find the special cookie box that I had put my heart and soul into making. Seeing my sister and her children filled me with joy because it was a rare occasion for us to gather together. However, throughout the visit, I couldn't shake off a lingering feeling of unease, though I couldn't quite explain why. Then, when I turned to check the pantry, I realized that the cookie box was missing. At first, I thought I might have misplaced it somewhere, but when I asked my sister about it, I was utterly shocked by her response. She admitted that her children had found and eaten all the cookies I had carefully stored away. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of shock and disappointment. Those cookies were not just a simple treat to me, they were a part of my memories, a piece of my love for my father. The fact that they had been eaten without my permission made me feel as if those memories had been violated. Those cookies weren't just ordinary snacks. They were all I had left to hold on to from my father. Immediately, sadness and frustration washed over me. I had spent so much time and effort making those cookies, and this loss was not something I could easily accept. I decided to express my feelings to my sister, hoping she would understand that this wasn't just about food. I wanted her to realize that those cookies held deep, sentimental value for me. However, her response was far from what I had hoped for. She apologized, but her words carried an implication that I was overreacting to something trivial. To her, her children were just being kids, and it was natural for them to be mischievous. In that moment, I felt even more disrespected by my sister's reaction. This wasn't just about children playing around. It was about me and the sacred memories I cherished, memories that I couldn't easily let go of. What disappoints me even more is not just losing the cookies I cherished, but also my sister's attitude. If this had simply been a case of children being playful and mischievous, I could have easily understood and let it go. However, the real issue is that these kids are never held accountable for their actions. No one corrects them, and they continue to believe that taking things that don't belong to them is acceptable. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. In the past, there have been multiple instances where they took other people's belongings without asking, yet they were never seriously reprimanded. I don't expect my sister to be overly harsh with her children. I'm not asking for some strict punishment. But at the very least, I thought she would take the opportunity to teach them a lesson about respect, about boundaries, about understanding that other people's belongings have value and meaning, and that they don't have the right to just take something because they feel like it. Instead, she brushed it off as if it were nothing, making me feel as though my emotions didn't matter at all. It wasn't just about the cookies, it was about the principle of the situation. It was about the complete lack of acknowledgement that what happened was wrong. It was about the realization that my sister, someone I thought would support me, didn't even take a moment to consider my perspective. She acted like I was making too big a deal out of it, as if my frustration and disappointment were unwarranted. And that's what hurts the most. If the roles were reversed, if I had taken something that was valuable to her, something that held personal meaning, would she still think I was overreacting? Would she still wave it off like it was nothing? I highly doubt it. If I had carelessly damaged or taken away something she truly cared about, I know she would have been upset, and rightfully so. But somehow, when it's me who feels wronged, my feelings are dismissed as unimportant. That double standard is infuriating. As the disappointment within me grows, I realize this situation is about much more than just a missing box of cookies. It represents something deeper, the understanding that my own family doesn't fully recognize or appreciate the things that I hold dear. It's the sinking realization that no matter how much I try to protect the things that are meaningful to me, those around me might never truly understand why they matter. I don't want to start a fight. I don't want to escalate this into something bigger than it needs to be. But at the same time, I can't just pretend everything is fine, because it's not. I feel hurt, not just by the actions of the kids, but by the indifference my sister showed towards something that meant a lot to me. I feel invisible in my own emotions, like my perspective doesn't count simply because I'm the one who got hurt instead of the other way around. Maybe, in the grand scheme of things, a box of cookies isn't that important. Maybe it's something small that I could let go of and move on from. But it's not about the cookies, it's about the fact that this keeps happening. It's about how easy it is for people to dismiss someone else's feelings just because they don't personally understand them. Respect isn't just about words, it's about actions. It's about recognizing when something matters to someone and treating that with care. If we can't even teach children that simple concept, then what kind of message are we sending them? That they can do whatever they want without consequences? That other people's emotions don't matter as long as they get what they want? That's not the kind of mindset I can accept. And that's why, no matter how much I try to brush this off, I can't help but feel deeply, profoundly disappointed. After hearing my sister say that I was overreacting, I fell silent. Not because I agreed with her, but because I realized that maybe she had never truly understood the significance behind that batch of cookies. To her, they were just a simple treat, nothing more, nothing less. But to me, they were something far more meaningful. They were a piece of a cherished memory, a small but powerful way for me to honor my late father. The feeling of loss I experienced wasn't just about the cookies themselves, it was deeper than that. It was the sinking realization that my own family couldn't understand the pain I was going through. If my sister had truly listened, if she had taken a moment to put herself in my shoes, maybe she would have realized that this wasn't just about a missing box of cookies. It was about something much more profound, something I held dear being taken away without a second thought. As I watched the two children continue playing, blissfully unaware of the weight of their actions, I found myself wondering, had I placed too much faith in the idea that parents should teach their children to respect others? Children are naturally playful, curious, and sometimes even mischievous, but if no one teaches them that taking something that doesn't belong to them is wrong, how will they ever learn? I couldn't blame them. They were still too young to fully grasp the meaning behind their actions. But I did blame the adults, the ones who should have known better, the ones who should have taken the time to guide them and instill in them a sense of right and wrong. That thought made me feel even more alone within my own family. I had hoped, expected even, that my sister would at least show some understanding, some empathy, or, at the very least, take a moment to explain to her children why what they did was wrong. Instead, all I got was a half-hearted apology, quickly followed by an attempt to change the subject, as if none of it really mattered. The truth is, I could easily go out, buy the ingredients, and bake another batch of cookies. But they wouldn't be the same. Those lost cookies weren't just ordinary cookies. They were made with intention, with love, with the anticipation of a tradition I had upheld for years. They were meant to be taken to my father's grave, to be placed there as a small gesture of remembrance as I sat quietly, letting my memories of him fill the space around me. And now, that moment had been stolen from me. The sense of loss still lingers, not just over the cookies, but over the way my family reacted to the situation. It left me questioning whether I was asking for too much. Was it really unreasonable to expect my family to respect the things I held close to my heart? Or was the real tragedy not the missing cookies, but the indifference of the people around me? It's a painful thing, realizing that the people you love the most can sometimes be the ones who understand you the least. Should I just let it go? It has been a few days, yet I still can't stop thinking about it. A part of me wants to push everything aside, accept that this was just a minor incident, and convince myself that it's not worth causing tension in my family. But another part of me can't shake off the hurt. If I stay silent now, what happens the next time something important is dismissed? Will my feelings always be considered insignificant? I understand that family is important. I've always believed that maintaining peace and harmony should come first, that small conflicts should be overlooked in favor of preserving relationships. But can I really continue pretending that nothing happened when my emotions are repeatedly brushed aside? It's not about holding a grudge over something trivial. It's about the principle, the underlying issue of respect. I don't want to be the kind of person who makes a big deal out of every little thing. I don't want to be seen as petty, overly sensitive, or someone who can't take a joke. But at the same time, I don't want to keep enduring situations where my feelings are disregarded as if they don't matter. Because they do matter. And if I don't stand up for myself, who will? After a lot of thinking, I've decided that I need to have an honest conversation with my sister. Not to start an argument, not to accuse or blame, but to help her understand why I'm upset. It's not about the fact that she ate my pastries without asking. It's about the feeling of being overlooked, of not being considered. To her, it might seem like a small, silly misunderstanding, something that shouldn't bother me at all. But to me, it represents something bigger, a pattern of disregard that I can no longer ignore. I need her to understand that this isn't just about food or a childish complaint. It's about respect, about valuing each other's feelings within a family. And if she can't see that, then maybe the distance between us will only continue to grow. That's what worries me the most, not the pastries, not this one incident, but the possibility that our bond as siblings is slowly weakening because of these small, unspoken grievances that build up over time. I don't expect immediate change. I don't expect her to suddenly become more considerate overnight. People don't change that easily, and I know that. But what I do expect, what I need, is to set clear boundaries. Because if I don't, this will keep happening, and every time it does, it will hurt a little more until one day I might find myself too exhausted to care anymore. And that, I think, is the saddest possibility of all. Family should be a source of comfort, not a place where you constantly feel like your emotions are second to everyone else's convenience. I don't want to reach a point where I stop expressing myself entirely just to avoid conflict, where I convince myself that my feelings don't matter as long as everyone else is happy. That's not balance. That's self-neglect. So, no, I'm not just going to let it go. Not because I want to hold on to resentment, but because I want to preserve what truly matters. A healthy relationship, one where both people feel heard and respected, is built on communication, not silent sacrifices. Maybe she will listen. Maybe she won't. But at least by speaking up, I will know that I tried. And that, in itself, is a step toward valuing myself.